The power of being you. My name is Eileen Buns. I'm a soul empowerment coach. I'm also a spiritual business strategist, healer, and therapist. Today I'm going to talk about the power of being authentic, being really you, and understanding yourself. And the power of when we start to let go of areas that actually are not really us, that don't belong to us. And how the more that you understand yourself at a deeper level, and the more also that you can be really intuitively led and soul led, is that you get that greater sense of purpose, and you get a greater sense of power within yourself. So I have been studying in the holistic and spiritual sector for over 30 years, nearly 35. And even longer than that, I have been, studying many aspects of self-development and personal development. And one of the things that I, understood about the personal development, industry and the self-development industry, they worked on, in some ways it was based on your ego. You were developing and improve yourself, which is, obviously not a bad thing in certain aspects. And I learned a lot from a lot of the teachings about these things, about, and in many ways in self-improvement. I recognised, for a variety of reasons, there were certain aspects of it that would mean that a lot of people can lose themselves in those things, because what it wasn't doing was it was working people towards being something else sometimes, and in a way focused that they weren't enough to start with, that they had to be someone or something else. Now, there can be a fine line with that, because it's some aspects that can insinuate that at your core you are flawed and you need to be completely different, that you're even authentic aspect, that you've not been born. I believe, for example, this is the easiest way to explain it, is when you are born, you're born in an aspect of God. And you have this essence within you, and you have this potential. And if you do not see that potential and you do not see that God aspect, you can really struggle with self-worth, self-esteem, and struggle to recognise that you have this beautiful value and that you are here with a purpose. Right? And, it can be, there's a fine line with working with, like, we all have the light aspect and the shadow aspect. And the more our wounding is strong, the more trauma that we have, we can fall into a lot of wounding patterns. But one of the things that I always loved to, it's just something that I just loved to do, even when I was younger. I would help my friends, I would do all these kind of self-development things, writing people's gifts and helping them, asking them questions to help them look at what they were really good at and what kind of jobs they would love to do. And that lit me up, because as a child, it was something, and I remember something being said, but I can't remember the whole conversation. And I think it was actually, I was brought up as a Catholic, and I remember hearing a story, it's almost like a child's story about, and what I mean is a childlike story about, it was so important that if God gave you gifts, that you shared those and didn't hide it. And I always, the phrase about not hiding your gifts under a bushel was really, really something that stood out. So much so that I remember I was a good singer. And I remember I enjoyed singing, but I wasn't the one, I wasn't really someone that actually, in some level, enjoyed performance, even though I wanted to be a singer. So my idea of using that gift was to go into recording studios and do jingles and things. And I remember I went to college to study singing, and I got stage fright, and actually being up in front of an audience, and found that aspect quite challenging. And I did really enjoy the energy of singing, but for a lot of reasons, that was not really where my path was going to lead to me. I had lots of health challenges and things that happened, which it was to me in many ways. There was a path being laid down, and my purpose was going to be somewhere else. And we can go through stages in our life where we think something is our purpose, or we have a desire, and some of that desires can be very egoic, or it can be just part of our life story, leading us towards something. And not even in the aspects of our story that are challenging and lead us somewhere else. There is things in that story and that journey that we carry with us, that we've always got innate gifts, and we don't always see it. And one of the things that I help a lot of my clients with is refine their purpose, because often, for example, you see a lot of people in my industry train as healers, train as therapists, as coaches, but sometimes that definition is very limiting. But it's also not always accurate to what they're really good at. And I'll give you some examples. So through my life, just because I had a lot of complex health challenges, I did a lot of medical harm, a lot of things happened to me. And I went down a very long-winded road, seeking answers and seeking help. And I would meet a lot of people that were very nice people, but they actually weren't really doing the purpose. There was some things within maybe their business that they were phenomenal at, but they actually didn't really notice. And there was other things they weren't that very good at. And these are the examples. And it's like, for example, mental healers and therapists today, they don't always master everything. They just sometimes collect certificates or collect training. So it just becomes a hobby because they are, in many ways, they seek it. Or they're always looking for more for the client. And I was a bit of that as well, because one of the things that I recognised was, people are not cookie size, they're all individual, and people come with unique challenges. And I met a lot of people with very fixed ideology that, their modality or their way of doing things was the right way. And if it didn't work for me, it was almost projecting on that it was me rather than, it wasn't right for me, whatever they were using. And I recognised that everybody is an individual, and lots of ideologies out there, then some of them are not always backed up with real substantial evidence. It's just someone's others, perception of that. And some of it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. But even at an individual level, even when people are training up, I say to my students, I train my students up for certain things. I have another part of my business, which has been, was the main part of my business for a long time, teaching stress management. And as someone, when I'm teaching some of my students, I explain to them there's lots of fundamentals that we talk about for safety and effectiveness, and I bring a combination of approaches in different teachings to give my students a wider perspective. But there's another reason why I do it, even though I believe that there's certain things and there's some methods that can be more safe and more effective, and they're obviously the foundation of some things that are also don't have, I'm not over everything with a brick, almost trying to, I don't know if that's the right word, but what I try to teach my students is that they're all individual, and they also will all have their own gifts, and when they do that training, then how they use it in their business will all be slightly different. Because, for example, some of them are natural teachers and mentors. Some of them are natural therapists or healers. But even within those definitions, like a therapist can mean lots of different things. And it's not just to do with the modality. Some people are great listeners. Some people are great natural counsellors. But also, even within that, there is often a combination of gifts. And the challenge that I see today is like, we're in a great time where we can do things very differently. It doesn't have to be be as standardized as what it was before. But the reality also, it can be very confusing to clients who to go to and who's the right person. So there has to be clarity. Clarity of what they're offering, clarity of the solution, but the clarity of really what you stand for and what your essence is in that business, so that when you understand your essence of what that magic is, it is easier to be clearer within your business what you're really giving someone. Now, for example, I'm an empowerment coach, but I meet lots of people who say they're an empowerment coach, and every single one of them are different. And many of them use all different strategies, and some can be very mental. Some of them can be very personal development. Some of them can be very spiritual. Some of them can be very soul-led. And even within that spiritual soul-led, there is different depths and different ways of looking at it. So it's all unique, but even how the person brings it through. Some people might bring something through very creatively. Some people might do things very intuitively. And this is where, when you understand you at a foundational element first, and then understand the other underlying elements that are your strength, you can build a business, or you can go and do a career, having very strong foundations on what is your strengths, but also even what is your vulnerabilities. Because when you know what your vulnerabilities is, and even your shadow elements, or what things that you're not that great at, you then know maybe what to avoid, or what careers may be not the best for you, because they can cause you, if you're not in your strength, you're causing yourself a lot of anxiety and stress, and you're not in the flow. But you can also think about, well, if it's a business, for example, I learned the hard way that there were certain things not to do in my business, just to do with my archetypal, particularly because archetypes is one of the biggest things, how I help people. And looking at my archetypal patterns and my gifts through archetypes, I could see where my gifts, but always where my weakness and vulnerabilities was. And there were certain things in my business that I structured differently, so that I'm a strong caregiver. And even though, some of my other archetypes are becoming, stronger, and I'm owning more of that now in my business. One of the things about a caregiver, for example, is that they can often be, out of a lot of the archetypes, they can be sometimes more taken advantage of, and other people can be attracted to them because they're very generous, they're very motherly-like, and they tend to be very empathic. So kind of tend to be more aware of what's going on with people. And that can be at a disadvantage sometimes, because other people can see that softness, that empathy and compassion as a weakness, and want to exploit that. So one of the things that, because that was also a shadow element within me, there's a lot of things that I try and do in my business, and how I deal with clients, and sometimes how I don't deal with clients, and just to keep in that. And these are all things that can really help us. But the power of really knowing your purpose, and knowing almost like, you can imagine your purpose is different layers to it, and your purpose evolves. So even though there could be foundational elements to my purpose that have been with me most of my life, how I use that, how I utilize that at different stages of my life will be different. How I combine it with other gifts is different. But the more that I understand what my power is and what my gifts is, and feel my soul power, it gets a lot easier. And I think it's so important at the moment. I think that we're in a situation at the moment where huge pivotal changes are happening in the world. There's a lot of chaos. And the easiest way to explain it is that we are in the middle of a kind of storm, or this chaos where there's so much shifts and changes. And most people are getting pulled into the storm, or getting pulled into the chaos. And they can't see that within the eye of the storm is, it's moving out a lot of other stuff that, first of all, has to be sown. It's basically uprooting and bringing up things that we maybe never saw within ourselves, within society, within the world, within governments, within every aspect. But we can stay centered in our power when we know ourselves and when we connect to that spiritual aspect of ourselves and that beingness, because your purpose in many ways is a beingness. Because when you're in the flow and you're really on purpose, you're in a state of beingness. If you find aspects of your work really challenging and stressful, you're not in that beingness. And it's one of the reasons why I'm creating a new program. But the program is a kind of coaching and healing program, but it's a deep dive. It's not as long as some of the 10 weeks sometimes that I do, but it's a 5-week deep dive. It's a beta tested version of this course, which is your soul keys to power and passion, where we're going to be unlocking aspects of you, aspects of your essence, and through deeper soul connection, but also looking at different layers of the archetypes, and from a power aspect and a sacred aspect. And the reason I'm sticking to the 5, more than 5 people in the group is that, this kind of work involves a depth of working more at a personal level and going deeper. And I don't like doing things at a surface level. I like to help people go deeper, because I think, most of the world has been built on the superficial in modern day life. It's lacking depth, it's lacking that integrity, and it's lacking true foundation. And if you want to have a deeper spiritual foundation in your purpose and what you're doing, you want it to feel deep. You want it to have it feel solid. So if you're interested, I'm going to give you a bit some details before. I plan to run it on the 21st of August. Maybe a week later, but it looks as if it's starting on the Wednesday, the 21st. If you're interested, I'll have a link below that you can either just pay for to join us, or you can actually book a little discovery chat to see if this is the right program for you. So it's 5 weeks, a 5-week intensive work. And the price is underneath. And there will be a link to it later if you watch this video later on when I run it again. You also, if you're running it we're in August 2024, if you join at that period, you'll also get access to 2 bonus one-to-one sessions with me, since it's the beta label. And the whole point of this program is to get to know yourself at a deeper spiritual level, and to look at the archetypes, not just from, we'll look at it at a foundational level because that's important first, but also look at it from different aspects. Because one of the things is about often when, even when we talk about the main archetypes that we use in business and branding, for example, there's often flavours of people. So, for example, I work with a lot of alchemists, sometimes work with creatives, sages, I think they're the ones performing, often archetypes. And every single person I work with, no matter if they're an alchemist or an orphan or whatever, they're all uniquely different. And that flavour of that archetype shows up very, very different. And you can feel it in their energy. You can, I can see things, but there is a sense, and you can feel what else is combined there. And often that individual doesn't see that because they're so close to the situation, or they're missing key components. They cannot see some key components that are really, really an important part of their purpose, or they're looking at a shadow element so much that they actually miss some of the power and the superpower that are in the shadow. And that is what we're going to be looking at, because there is one of the things that I learned is in some of my shadow elements was actually at the opposite end of that was power. It was just learning how to utilize something and missing something that was really, really important. Because sometimes what we see as our weaknesses or our vulnerabilities can actually be, in other circumstances, our biggest gift and our biggest strength. It's just perception. And it's when it's applied to certain situations. So remember, the power of being truly you is, to me, that's the greatest gift that we can give the world. Being authentic and learning to understand yourself more and being more of yourself. It comes with greater light, it comes with greater expansion, it comes with greater power. And the more that you are being truly you, you give other people permission to be them. And the more that you can unlock more of what really is within you and let go of all the conditioning projection that has been put onto you from, from education, from the world, from your siblings, from your parents, from even your mentors, your coaches, your healers or therapists. You start to unlock different layers. It's like, I meet many healers, and some people are just not physical healers, and there's other people that can have absolute miracles with things that normally modern medicine couldn't even treat. And within a few days, these people are completely miraculously healed. And there's other people that are very good at the mental or emotional, the psychic, and the more spiritual aspects of esoteric. Everyone has come in with unique qualities and unique different levels of insight and awareness in the way that they look at things. So their gifts are suited to different elements, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Now, if you also are really, if you want to be more authentic in your business and your marketing, I also have a free gift, which is an ebook. Plus, it also comes with some, I don't know if it's 5-day or 60, to be honest, but I'll put the link below. It's one of my older courses, but it was upgraded a year ago. And it's it's giving you really tips how to be more authentic in your business and your marketing, and how to show up. And it gives you some video tips over, I think, a 5 or 6 day little video series. So make sure you check that out. And again, if you feel you would like more one-to-one actually support in any of these areas, reach out, pop over to my website at eileenburns.co.uk, and you can check out, there's a lot of free resources. You can also, private message me on social media. I'm over on Facebook under Eileen Burns UK. I'm also in the spiritualmarketingclub.com. You can, I'm on Facebook as Spiritual Marketing Club, and Instagram, something that's sometimes an easy one to remember. So don't be scared to reach out if you would like to support. Have a wonderful day, and remember, just being you is the most powerful thing that you can do. And recognize that even when we think we're being authentic, there is still layers of that onion that don't belong to us, that are not actually us. And that sometimes there's layers of what we're presenting to the world that actually is something someone else has put onto us. And there's a lot more of you underneath those layers. Okay, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now. And make sure, if you enjoyed this video, like, share, comment, and if there is something that you have recognized about you, what is some of your most authentic aspects? What is your quirkiness? What is things that people will say are one of the most natural traits? Share below. I'd love to hear. We have to start owning the things that are part of us. I'm somebody that doesn't always take myself too seriously. And I can have a funny side to things. I'm also quite quirky in some ways, like everybody is. And it's those little small things that we are actually our imperfections that are an authentic aspect, and are also the things that actually often our audience like about is the things that actually connect us with our audience, and the things that are really important sometimes, and we just don't recognise it. Okay, so just remember that. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye bye.